So I'm here with Raj, who has a pretty interesting story. He took a boot camp with me about 7 or so months ago, and at that time, well, you can go into more detail, but your dating
Yes,
life
definitely.
situation, there was a lot of room for improvement. And
Definitely.
since then, things have changed to a degree that's pretty crazy. It's a
Yes.
pretty insane before and after difference. But let's start by telling people about your starting point, about where you were when you took the boot camp in terms of uh, approaching girls, getting dates, that kind of thing.
Yes. So before I worked with you, I had never been on a single date in my life. That sounds very impossible to believe considering I was 38 years of age. And it was already June. And I did work with certain dating coaches, which ended up disastrous for me because they kind of gave me a pretty brutal feedback saying I had low SMV, I did not have a tonality of Joe Rogan, and I did not have a V-shaped
Joe
body.
Rogan, that's an interesting specific
Yes.
example, but okay.
And I did not have a
Investigative.
V-shaped body,
Yeah.
and I'll never be able to succeed in my dating life. I was too old. I was not white enough,
Well, I'm
or I
very
was not
glad that you
whitewashed
didn't
enough.
didn't listen to that
Sorry?
feedback. I'm very glad you
Yes.
didn't listen to that feedback.
Yes. So when I initially reached out to you in I think in June, my confidence was at an all-time low because of the kind of feedback I received. And once you get that kind of feedback, it even makes it impossible to just walk up to anybody and say hello. You're like, damn, what if this is true? And what if I'll be insulted, humiliated? What if girls actually say those things to my face? So I
Yeah.
stopped approaching people. I stopped going out. I was just in my shell thinking, what can I do? I mean, what can I do? How can I get out of the situation that I was in? And at that time, I thought, I mean, you were my last shot. I thought, all right, then let me give it another shot. When I initially had a call with you, you were very friendly, and we discussed many things. Among them was my dating history, where I did tell you openly that I had never been on a single date, and I had an accent, and yeah, whatever my shortcomings were, I was aware of it. At least the way I was speaking, my eye contact, that wasn't something that I noticed until the boot camp. But initially, when I reached out to you, I was open about it, and you were pretty supportive. You heard me out. And at that time, I was still a virgin at the age of 38, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, because I did try it a couple of times before working with few people, and it did not work out well for me. But eventually, I decided to take the plunge, and I took the first boot camp with him in Vegas. And I'm glad I took the decision to work with him. During the boot camp, he did identify certain things which I was doing wrong. One obvious thing was the proximity with which I was approaching people. I was getting too close to them, maybe too much in their faces.
And that's a small thing, but it makes such a big difference.
Yes,
And
it
these are
does.
things that it's easy not to be aware of, right? Not to
Yes,
notice because
yes,
you're not seeing yourself from outside. And
yes,
when someone who's been doing this for years, it's very easy to see and it's actually easy to fix something that
yes,
it sounds so small,
yes,
but it can make a huge difference in the amount of
yes, it
girls that
does.
are open to talking to you, right?
Yes. And another big thing that he pointed out was I was speaking in a very submissive tone at that point. This was in June, so it came across as very as if I was begging when I was approaching. So that is those. So those were a couple of minor changes which he suggested, and those were really very important, at least from my perspective, because at least now I knew what I had to work on and where I was going wrong. Previously, I was like, I didn't even know what I was doing or how to do it. And I wasn't even sure that I will ever succeed. I never had a path. Now, at least I had a path. Okay, these are the mistakes that I'm making. And if I do rectify these mistakes, at least there's a chance of me succeeding. At least I got that belief. And when I initially started working with him, yes, there were many times when I was making the same mistake again and again. But he was very patient and he was not rude or condescending like other dating coaches I worked with. So that really gave me confidence at that point of time that, okay, it is possible to do it. It's not something that is impossible. This it's just something I have to work at constantly.
Well, you did a ton of approaches, right? You got a lot
Yes,
of momentum. At
yes,
first, there was some approach anxiety, some resistance. You hadn't been
yes,
doing this. But
yes,
then by the third day, you're approaching before I even tell you, right? Like I have
yes,
to like
that's
catch up
true.
to you to
Yes,
observe the approach. And so
yes,
you're
that was true.
taking massive action. And then you didn't lose your virginity on the boot camp.
No,
That's
I didn't.
happened several times, but didn't happen in
I
this
did not.
case. But after the boot camp, that
Yes,
the results continued, right? So
yes,
you kept at it, which is something I'm very specific to make sure to give you an action plan to keep approaching
yes,
afterwards. And you followed through with that. And
yes.
then, so what happened in the coming weeks where things started to shift?
In the coming weeks, it was interesting because, I mean, after I came back from the boot camp, I started constantly approaching. The momentum was there. And I do recall when I was doing my first approach, my heart was just pounding. It was pounding at 200 miles per hour. I'm like, I thought my heart would pop out. But
I can relate.
yes, as I started doing the approaches, I didn't have that much of approach anxiety. Yes, there were times when I did have resistance, like if I did not do approaches for 2, 3 days and suddenly I went out and I saw somebody I wanted to talk to. There were times I did have some resistance, but it was within manageable proportions. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to collapse just by looking at it. It
Right.
wasn't that bad. So definitely, I was able to approach more. And the biggest thing that helped me and biggest thing that was of benefit to me, especially in my situation, was I had never been around women. I had not gone on a single date. So from there to to getting intimate with the woman, how do you even go there? For me it was a big uphill climb. And one thing that did help me was the dating pics which you took at the end of the boot camp. Previously, I had tried dating websites like Tinder and Bumble. I never had any hits. I never had any approaches. I had never been able to go out on a single date from my online dating.
Yeah.
So first, I had to figure out a way to get comfortable with women before I can even get intimate with them. So one of the things I started doing is I started really hitting up on the online dating thing, like investing time, at least half an hour a day, trying to reach out with updated pictures, updated bio. And then, all of a sudden I did get responses, which never happened before. And I did get responses like saying, "Hey, handsome, how are you?" I never thought of myself to be handsome. But, and once I started getting responses, I started setting up dates. And I recall, I think it was in the third or fourth date that I lost my virginity, wherein like we went on a second date, and after the date, we made out in the car, and we banged in the car itself. And that gave me, after I started getting results from online dating and I was more comfortable around women, like talking to them and being intimate with them, I started getting comfortable, but the results were still not where I wanted to be. For
Yeah.
instance, I would go out, for instance, after the boot camp, right, the first one, I recall going out on at least 20 dates. And these were from cold approaches as well after I started online dating. But many of those dates didn't go anywhere. Like during the dates, they used to last 2 hours, 3 hours. And the girl used to be very interested in me. It used to be fun. I liked them. Uh, I liked the dates, so I assume they liked it as well.
Yeah.
But it didn't go anywhere. I never heard back from them. So I
Right.
was running into this issue again and again. I thought maybe it's just one or two times, maybe it's just a off thing. But after it started happening repeatedly, like I went on at least 15 to 20 dates in the 6 weeks post the boot camp, and many of those dates didn't go anywhere.
It's a
So
pretty
that is
big
when I,
increase from zero, for
yes,
sure.
big increase from
And
zero.
in that time, you lost your virginity, but
Yes,
you were feeling
but
stuck with
yes,
getting ghosted,
yes,
basically.
getting ghosted after the first date.
Yeah,
I did realize that there was a problem that I needed to fix, but I didn't, but again, I didn't know how to fix it. So again, I approached you and we decided to do the second one in Miami.
yeah,
And during that boot camp, like, as you said, I wasn't leading enough. I wasn't being assertive enough. I was being too docile, too polite. I was just, I would say I was just happy to be on a date. Like, because I hadn't done it enough, it was just that I just wanted to be on a date. That's it. But
yeah.
I wasn't really thinking. There was no plan, nothing. It was just like, okay, I'm on a date. It's a victory for me. I was very happy.
Yeah, there's a term for that. It's called playing not to lose instead of playing to
Yes,
win,
yes,
look, it makes sense. I mean, you had just lost your virginity recently. You'd
yes,
never gone on a date. So it's still,
yes,
compared to what you would expect, that's still good progress. But
yes,
you're at this level where you've had this kind of like this
yes,
ego boost and this increased level of success, and it's
mm,
very easy to get stuck there instead of taking the next risk,
yes,
right? Instead of taking the next risk where you're actually like moving things forward. And that's a very common thing that guys get stuck with is
yes,
they just go for the number even when the girl clearly wants to go home with them, right?
yes.
And they're down for it, but you have to make it happen. You have to be the
Yeah,
proactive force. And that was a big
definitely.
thing in the Miami boot camp. Another one I remember was the way you went for the pool, right? Like the
Yes.
wording, the phrasing of actually how to
Phrasing
make it
was,
happen,
yes,
right? Phrasing it in a way that the girl can relate to as opposed to something
yes,
that sounds too sexual, basically, right?
yes,
Whereas they often will feel judged for that. That was
yes,
another one that made a big difference, but
yes.
go on.
Yes, another thing I noticed during the Miami boot camp, it was something I noticed internally, that there were times when I wasn't really, I was just saying it without even meaning it. It started to
Mhm.
become mechanical. I wasn't really
Right.
feeling it. I mean, I went up to girls, I used to talk, but there was no feeling that was involved. Maybe because I was, uh, maybe because I stuck to scripted lines and stuff. But so that kind of killed the spontaneity.
Hmm.
And during the boot camp, I realized that this was another area which I can work on. So from that time on, I pretty much know what I'm going to say, but it's not scripted. Like I always keep it changing depending on the situation, depending on the place and whom I'm talking to. So that is another big thing which I noticed through your help during the Miami boot camp. And obviously, one final thing was, like I said, the way I was really pulling the plug, or the way I was really finally, putting it across. Like I was, maybe I was coming across as too rude, like saying I wanted to get intimate with you. So those were some of the mistakes which I did make, and I I realized it during the Miami boot camp. Okay, that is not the way to put it across. You have to put it across in a way that other person feels comfortable enough, and clearly that wasn't happening previously. So yes, those were some of the things that I did learn. But the
And
biggest
then what
lesson,
happened on the last day? Because I know
yes,
something substantial happened.
yes, that was the first time I got late during a boot camp. Like, I recall going to this bar. It was my last night in Miami, so I just wanted to have fun. Actually, I was supposed to meet another co-participant of mine at the at the bar, and he was late. So just went to the bar to get myself a drink. I found somebody whom I was attracted to. I walked up to her, and like you said in the past, I just introduced myself, and then I asked her out for a dance on the dance floor. And we did dance for about 5-10 minutes. I could see that she was into me, and I was definitely into her. She was my kind of girl, and I and I did tell her that, hey, it's my last night in Miami. Would you like to come back to my place for a few drinks? It has a good oceanic view. And she
Which is
said,
a lot better than
yes,
to get intimate.
yes, that
Yeah.
is much, that is true. And then we went back to my place, and yeah, we did get intimate, and we did end up sleeping with each other. And yes, that was my last night in Miami. It was fun. it was the most enjoyable night in Miami for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the first time I got laid from, or you can say that was my first pull from a bar or a nightclub.
Yeah.
I never had any success before. Like previously, I remember going to bars and nightclubs would just scare me. I would just be paralyzed just at the very thought of going. And even if I did make it to a bar or a nightclub, I would like be stuck there because I was always in my mind. I didn't know. I mean, I would imagine all the scenarios saying I did not have an accent. I'm not
Yeah, there's
quite
probably
old
these
enough.
thoughts of what other coaches have told you and what
Yes,
social conditioning tells you too,
yes,
but that, you're
yes,
SMV,
yeah, SMV and all
you're
that stuff.
Indian, like these things, it's not going to work.
Yes, it's not going
You're
to
not
work.
tall,
Yeah,
right?
it's
That's
not going
another
to work
one.
for me.
But that disproved that, right?
Yes,
That
that
girl
disproved.
who you mentioned, like how she was really cute, which
Yeah,
I think,
she was from
it adds to
Venezuela,
it.
and yeah, exactly the kind of girl that I liked.
And so having that happen, I think was kind of that disproved these limiting beliefs.
Yes,
Losing your virginity, going on a bunch of dates, pulling a girl from a bar, your limiting
yes,
beliefs are kind of fading away after all that.
yes, they were
And
fading away.
then this is very much a like when it rains, it pours kind
It
of thing.
was.
Because then what happened in the months since? I actually know some of what happened because you
Yes,
were around when I was doing a boot camp in Vegas, and you weren't on the boot camp, but you were just around and you hung out a
yes,
bit. And during that time, during the 3 days, every single day you left with a girl.
yes, that is true.
Every single day. The
Every
one
single
time
day.
you didn't make it, you were gonna hang out, but you pulled a girl before you came to hang out with us, right?
Yes,
So you ended up pulling and I think getting laid 3 times.
yes, that is true.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Going from 38
Zero
years of
to
nothing.
yes,
And it shows a lot of things. It shows one of the most important things. It shows the power of momentum, of being
yes,
consistent, and
yes,
how these wins, because at first you're getting a lot of rejections, you're getting a lot of interactions that might
yes.
not be as good as you hope, but you're not getting what you were led
Want.
to believe you might by these other coaches and by other people,
Yes,
where you thought it would be like extremely brutal, they'd be super
yes.
mean. It wasn't like that, but you'd get a lot of
Mm.
rejections and some frustration, but you'd also get wins, right?
Yes,
Get that first date, get that first
yes,
makeout, get that first lay, et cetera, et cetera.
yes,
And so that starts to counter, the weight starts to go on the other side in terms of your
yes,
mindset, right? And then the
yes,
momentum builds to where you're on a boot camp and the guys are probably going to think you like this guy must be a coach or something because he pulled every single night and they're like
yes,
what the fuck. And then one of the guys on the boot camp, he's like 6'5",
yes,
stereotypical definition of a Chad, and he hasn't pulled yet. And he's like, holy fuck,
yes,
like, okay, well, if he can do it, then I can do it too.
yes.
So I think that's very important to be aware of. So what have your overall results been since that second boot camp in Miami?
I would say my results have skyrocketed since the
Lost count?
second. No, no. Yes, I would say I have lost count, but roughly I would say since the second boot camp, I've gone out on at least 50 plus dates.
Okay. And
I've
then
gone
the
out on 50
overall late count?
lay count.
People
I
care
would
about
say
that.
I would say at least more than 25. I've lost count of it, but that's what I can say. At least 25 to 30. Yes,
25 to 30. Okay. So
yes.
from 0 to 25 to 30, which is a pretty
Yeah, that is a big jump. And the biggest thing is now I do have options in my dating life. Like previously, for me, like previously, I would say getting a girl's number would be an impossible task. I recall trying to do it on my own for 2, 3. I mean, I became aware of this only in my when I was 34, 35 that you can go and approach girls. Previously, I didn't
yeah.
even know that.
So 4 or so years ago.
Yes, and in that time when I tried to do alone or when I tried to do it by myself, I did not even get a single number. And from there to actually going out on a date seemed like an impossible task.
Right.
I thought I could never do it. I mean, I tried whatever help I got turned out to be disastrous for me because they kind of shot me down. But after I started getting the first date, and one thing that I can say from my point of view was initially I was not really picky because, like I said, I did not have any experience around women. So I just had to get comfortable. So initially I did go out you know, with people whom I wasn't really that much interested in just to get an experience of date, like how is
Sure.
being on a date going to be. But after the first two experiences, I got better options, and I chose the woman I wanted to go out with. And
Right. At one point, you sent me a message. I don't know, this is 4 months ago or something like that, that you were getting dates with eights and nines, right?
yes,
Which before maybe you
it
weren't
was
being as picky,
yes,
but everything got better over time, right?
yeah,
Not just
everything
the
got
number of,
better.
not just the numbers in terms of results, but also
Yes.
the quality too.
I recall the last boot camp I was at. I pulled the Romanian blonde on the New Year's Eve. Actually, she was at least nine or at least 10 on 10, you can say. And she was sitting at the bar, and I just didn't do anything fancy, anything, nothing. Just started talking, and yeah, and it happened. So from being at a place where everything was pretty dark, not being on a date, to actually, going out with a woman, being around them. And also in my case, this is something I wanted to experience in life
Yeah.
because I never experienced it. And now I would say now I've experienced it, and I really feel, you know, thankful to you that I did make the decision to work with you. Otherwise, I would still be in the position I was before I started working with you. I would still be feeling it, trying to figure out things on my own, stumbling, not knowing where I'm going wrong. So one thing that I will say, and this is something I would recommend, is choose the person whom you want to work with very carefully. Like the examples I've given in my case. If you choose to work with the wrong people, then the results could be disastrous. At least for me, it will, because they can shut you down. They can literally, I would say, they can literally drain your confidence, your energy, and that's the worst place to be at. I mean, imagine you investing some money like $1,000, $2,000, only to be told that you don't have a good SMB, or there's an online SMB calculator which says you have an SMB of 3 on 10. And now I don't give a rat's ass for this SMB or anything. Now I have the belief that my SMB is what is how I communicate myself to the world, and that's it, simple.
Yeah.
And one other final thing I would say, which I learned from you did, was having very clear boundaries. Previously, yes, I did have some boundaries, but I never had strong boundaries when it came to dealing with beautiful chicks. I was always, one part of me always said, all right, let me try to be accommodative. Like, for instance, if a girl isn't really into you, and you're trying to dance with her, I would never exit until she tells me to my face that, okay, you have to leave now. She goes to the bathroom only, never to come back. But now I
Or
think
says she's a lesbian.
or she
That's a
has
common one.
interactions, and I was able to pull that night based on what I learned from you, having very strong
Hmm.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I do recall the girl actually that I actually pulled that night. She said she was with a friend, and she said she was, she just wanted to have a good time. But I was very clear that I was attracted to her. If she wanted to be with me, it was up to her. And then she actually made all efforts to ditch her friend to be with me that night, like
Yeah.
I showed you in the messages on the on that night. So I would say that it is possible, but you got to pick the right people to work with, and depending on people's dating history, the results, or the pace of the results might vary. In my case, it took a bit longer because obviously I had not been around women. I had never gone out on a date. I can say that if I can do it at the age of 38, I mean anybody should be able to do it. All these things like you're too old, you're not whitewashed enough, or you don't have the tonality of XYZ. This is
And
just
well, okay, one that
ignorance.
I think is the biggest for a lot of people. What's your height?
My height is I'm 5'6". I'm not 6 feet tall.
Yeah, 5'6". That would, for a lot of people, they would think, oh, I'm 5'6". It won't work for
Yeah.
me, right? That's another one.
Yes.
So
I'm
you got a
five
list, too
six,
old, blah, 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 accent,
too
and
old
disproving them all.
accent.
Because women, we think that women, because we can only project ourselves into what
Yes.
women would think,
Yes.
we don't understand how different they are, right?
Yes.
Like in terms of, I've heard women even say, like, he wasn't attractive until, right? Until
Yes.
he started talking. Now,
Yes.
you're not going to usually hear men say that about a girl, right?
Yes.
Men are not going to be like, "Oh, she was ugly," but then that guys don't usually think that way. They're more visual
Yes.
because we can go into the evolutionary biology. That's a whole thing,
Yes.
right? But women are looking for status, right?
Yes.
They're looking for status, and status is not just a watch or just a
Yes.
nice car. Those are signs of status, but
Fine.
it's how do you carry yourself,
Yes.
right? Do you carry yourself like a leader or like a follower,
Yes.
right? Alpha male or beta male, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And if you carry yourself as high status, they automatically feel that you're attractive. If your frame is strong enough, they'll fall into that frame.
Yes.
And if you just believe all the stuff you've been told, the fact that you believe that, oh, I don't have these qualities and therefore women are all going to reject me, believing that is in itself low
Yes.
status,
Yes.
right? That is a low
Exactly.
status thing to even believe that, right? It is
Definitely. Yes.
proving that women shouldn't be attracted to you until you change that belief, right? They
Yes.
shouldn't be attracted to the guy who so easily just follows other people what they tell them to do. That is what a beta male does. And
Yes.
even if you have that, you're like that now, that can change. You just need to start getting reference experiences. You start need to
Yes.
getting momentum and
Mm.
start having little wins and start
Yes.
realizing the rejections aren't a big deal on the other side, right? When
Yes.
you do get rejected, it's not as bad as I
Doesn't matter.
thought. You
Yes.
get numb to it. And when those two things happen, you start carrying yourself like a
Better.
high status person.
Yes.
And then women start treating you like a high status person. And then you become the high status guy that women are just automatically attracted to. And I'm not
Yes.
saying looks don't matter. I'm not one of those guys that says it's not a factor. But regardless of what your looks or external things, regardless of where that's at, you
Yes.
can have more success than the vast majority of people. Yes, if someone's
Definitely.
6'5", perfect jawline, all these things, and they have a 10 out of 10 game, they would do better than the guy who's short, etc., and has good
Yes.
game. But the person who's short and isn't a male model, it can still do better than 95, 99% of
Yes.
guys out there.
Yes, definitely. Like I think this happened in a when I was doing a second boot camp with you, like in a nightclub. Like I actually had girls tell me that I have swag, I was attractive. This actually did happen. And I did not change anything,
Was
nothing
that
about
happening
me.
before?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So, and nothing changed about me physically. Physically, I was still the same person.
Yeah.
But only thing that changed was the way I carried myself and the way I was communicating, more assertive, more authoritative, and more confident, I would say. So certainly, by the time the second boot camp ended, I was really feeling good about myself. That I believed that I could do it. Like it is possible.
Yeah.
I could go out on dates. I could go out on dates with attractive women. That people can find me attractive because I had girls telling me that I was attractive, that I had swag, and this happened multiple times. It wasn't happening before. One thing that changed was, I would say, the mindset. And the thing that changed the mindset is actually doing the things I was afraid about. Previously, I just watched YouTube and I also, for a brief while, flirted with this red pill shit and all. And I mean, anybody watching this, that red pill shit is just garbage. Just stay away from it. And if you really want to change your dating life, do something about it. Just sitting at home watching YouTube videos will not really help. If you're really serious about it, pick a person you want to work with. I already gave you my recommendation and do something about it. Like, just try it out. I mean, we try so many things out. Why not just try it out for 3 days and
Well,
see
when
the
you get
difference?
coaching, when you get
Yes,
coaching, you're it's so easy to dabble. It's so easy
yes,
to procrastinate. But if you sign up for coaching, you're making a financial investment.
yes,
You're giving yourself a large amount of leverage and
yes,
accountability, and it's going to
yes,
be very hard to continue to be at that same level of putting it off,
definitely.
not
Yes,
doing anything, just waiting on
yes,
the sidelines. So there's been many people like you where that was the moment. A lot of my clients had never approached before in their life, right? And that's
yes,
common. And then they finally do on the boot camp because
yes,
you've just taken on the identity of someone who's not going to continue to dabble, right? By
yes,
doing that, by taking that leap. And,
yes,
I'll show as many, some people really don't want to believe it works. Some people are going to say this is fake. Some people are going to say the infield is fake. Some people are going to say the pictures are fake or all the testimonial, everything's fake. What? Not everyone wants to be helped.
yes,
But if you think about it rationally, at a certain point, the proof should add up that this can work
yes,
and you can get success, but you have to be willing to do something about it.
definitely. And many of the participants in your last boot camp actually found me inspiring. And I recall one of your participants even taking a picture with me saying, okay, if this guy can do it at a 38, I can do it. And it's a reminder for me. So, and yes, it really, I mean, I would say that I have come a long way since I initially started working with you. And I would say that now I have abundance of options in my dating life, that nothing is preordained that, oh, I have to be with this person because I don't have any other option. I'm not in that situation.
So has that had any effect on the way that you think about yourself, your overall mindset, your emotions, your level of confidence, the way you interact with people, maybe even outside of just dating and pickup? Is there anything along those lines?
Yeah, definitely, it has improved my own self-image of myself. And that has reflected in other areas, even my professional life, wherein now I have very clear boundaries. I have very clear guide. I mean, I have very clear rules that I'm always going to communicate what I think is the best. Previously, I was always looking for validation, bending over backwards, trying to please people. I'm no longer a people pleaser. So whatever, it's interesting actually. This wasn't the intended consequence, but this trying to improve my dating life has improved other areas of my life as well. Like some of the things which I've just said. I no longer seek validation from people. I no longer am a people pleaser. I am myself. I communicate myself, and I think highly of myself. No matter what people say or what people believe. Even today there'll be coaches or there'll be people who say, "Oh, you don't have a low. I mean, you have a low SMB, or you don't have blue eyes or whatever." Now I don't give a toss about it. I really don't give a toss about it. Even if a girl rejects me, the way I look at it is she lost out on an opportunity of her lifetime. That is my mindset now.
Yeah.
Previously, when a girl rejected me, I would just not go out of the house for 2 days. I would like, damn, I would constantly be thinking, what did I do wrong? Maybe if I had done this, would this rejection have not happened? Overthinking and all. But now I really don't think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this applies to, say, for instance, I go out on a date, I don't hear back from the girl, I don't care because the way I look at it is, I feel now I am the opportunity. That is my mindset now. And if they don't want to be part of my life, that's fine. I'll find somebody else whom I can talk to. So that is the biggest change which has happened in my dating life and also in my personal life. It's interesting because it kind of trickled into everything that I do in my professional life and also in my personal life. So I would say that it's almost like a new software has been installed in my system in the last 6 months. It did not
Yeah.
happen overnight, but some of the things which I did, literally, yes, it did make a big difference. I mean, now I would say I'm a completely different person. Even regardless of my dating life, I would say I'm a different person. When I talk to people, like small things you pointed out, like speaking louder not in a submissive tone. This I used even in my work every single day. Like, and nowadays, I mean, I do work from home, so nowadays when I speak, sometimes people ask, "Who is this who's speaking?" They don't, because they can't even relate to my voice before.
Wow.
So
That's
yes,
crazy.
and that is one big change. If I would say one big change is obviously the, apart from the dating options that I have, the biggest change is my tonality, and the biggest change is the way I look at
The look
myself.
in your face, I mean, you can't
Yes,
see that, but that's different too, right? The
yes,
the
it is
emotions
different.
that you radiate, it's a lot
Yes,
less anxiety, which is
lot
was
less
the main thing
anxiety.
before,
Yes,
which like came out of your eyes, like your eyes being too open,
true.
and
Yes,
which is something we talked about on the boot camp.
yes,
That was the emotion that you were projecting, and now it's
yes,
ease, right?
yes.
Confidence,
Now it
very
is
different.
different. The glow on my face, and I've had chicks tell me this as well on days that I go on. Like, there's this glow on your face. What have you done? So that's on a
Got
side
laid a
note.
lot.
Yes, got laid a lot. I would say it has been one of the best decisions which I have made working with you,
Thank you.
and learning from you, and some of the things which you pointed out I could apply it to anywhere, even in my professional life. At least it is relevant to me, like not talking too fast, talking in a more authoritative tone, or maintaining proper eye contact, not staring or gawking at them. Previously, I wasn't even aware of all these things. I always
Yeah,
thought that, oh, it's all you have to have an assembly of 10 on 10, or you have to be
gotta be a
blonde,
Chad.
you have to be a Chad. Now I don't really care about all those things. Now I believe that when I walk into a nightclub or a bar, any social environment, I believe that I am that guy. I don't care what the other people believe, but I believe that I am that guy.
And they fall into
And
that belief. This is the reason why I'm so passionate about this because look, people see pickup artists. I don't call myself that, but they think it's just about getting laid. And for some coaches, it is. And for some people learning it, it can be. But when you go through it, and if you have the right mindsets, you're teaching it in a
yes,
way that isn't like super manipulative and super narcissistic, really, it's about changing yourself and
yes,
becoming more at ease with yourself, becoming more confident in yourself.
yes,
I know when I got over my approach anxiety, my overall, because I was diagnosed with panic disorder, my overall
yes, yes.
anxiety also
Uh,
reduced by 80, 90%, right? It made
yes,
me my entire life more enjoyable. I felt better in my own skin, right?
yes,
And it helps you have more confidence in being assertive. And that's how I
definitely.
was able to start a business that ended up being successful. That's how I was able to do a lot of things that I
Yes,
never would have done if I didn't find some way to push myself to face my ego.
yes,
And that's what pickup is about. It's about facing your ego and facing anxiety and facing
yes,
stress, facing resistance, and becoming better, right? That's what you have to do to get better results. And
yes,
when you do that, there are effects throughout your entire life,
yes,
right? And
definitely.
that's if it was just about getting laid, I would have gotten bored of this, within a year,
Yes,
this coaching. But it's when you see things like the story you've told, there's been other people have told me that, it cured their depression. And I'm not saying that's like guaranteed or anything like
yes,
that, but there's effects outside of just the
definitely.
way just getting laid. It's way
Yes,
beyond that. It's way more than that. And that's why this is something that I care about. And that's why
yes,
this is something I've dedicated so much time and energy to outside of just doing it for myself, but
yes,
teaching it to others.
definitely. Yes, I would say I mean, I would say that it's all about, I mean, how you look at yourself in your world, not through other people's lenses. And it definitely has improved my self-image. Now I look at myself as the king of my life. That's it. No matter what other persons, no matter what other people think or say. Yes, I might have 10 rejections, or or there will always be people who don't want to be with you, or who don't want to talk to you. That's fine. That's fine by me. And one thing that I learned from this is like, it's not a game, or at least this is my interpretation of it. Game is not necessarily about talk, getting every single girl you talk to, but actually being with girls, or talking to girls who really want to talk to you. Invest, not just
And
hang
the
out
ones
with.
you really want to talk
Yeah,
to as
yeah,
well, right?
yes.
It's about finding the genuine chemistry, right?
Genuine
And there's a
chemistry.
lot, most of the girls who reject you, a lot of people don't realize you probably wouldn't have liked them either, right? So
Yes,
they're rejecting you. They can sense that you just don't have the same values. You don't have like natural chemistry, and they're just rejecting that. You think
yes,
she's hot, but you probably wouldn't even like spending time with a lot of the girls that reject you anyway, because
yes,
they're a totally different, like the way they see the world. Like a lot
yes,
of them are, let's say they're an Instagram model and they just care about their followers and they have a
yes,
bunch of plastic surgery. You might think they're hot, but them
yes,
rejecting you, there's a reason for it. That's not just you not being good looking enough, it's
yes,
incompatibility. And as you get to a point where you're not rejecting yourself, because when you're
yes,
new to pickup, most guys, they're rejecting themselves, right? They
yes,
half-ass the approach,
yes,
they don't go in strong enough, or they do like little mistakes like we talked about with you during your boot camps.
yes,
They're making these little mistakes, but once your game is solid, you're
yes,
going to be rejecting women just as much as they reject you, right? You're going to
yes,
be finding the
definitely.
girls that you genuinely
Yes,
enjoy being around. And that's what it's about. Like if you want to get late, 1,000 lay count, if that's your goal, whatever, that's fine. But I
yes,
think you'll find that what actually makes it worthwhile is not the number of experiences, but the quality of
yes,
experiences and being with someone
definitely.
who you truly feel like a deep connection with, you really feel
Yes,
intimacy with. There's nothing better than that in the world. I don't think. I think that's one of the best
definitely.
experiences that makes life
Yes,
worth living.
yes,
And it's not even just about sex, it's also about like when you're going out, when you're truly yourself and there's no filter and you're
yes,
completely just in the zone and just being fully expressive, that is oftentimes better than like you can get laid and think, oh, that's no, you can have a night where you didn't get laid and
yes,
it's just as satisfying when you
yes,
have that
definitely.
experience. And
Yes,
you bring that with you into all your social interactions. Whereas
yes,
before I learned pickup, I'm always in my head.
yes,
Even being around family members is uncomfortable and I'm worried
yes,
that they're judging me. And, being around friends, I'm
yes,
neurotic and anxious. And that going away and just not having that like wall
mm,
between you and other people, that is what it's really about.
Yes, definitely. In For me, the effect has been that now I love myself and I've accepted myself. That is the, I would say, one icing on the cake, you can say. And now, regardless of what people think, say, or feel, doesn't matter because now I love myself and I've
But
accepted myself.
paradoxically, because you have that belief, more people respond
Yes,
positively, right?
that is
More
the,
people like you as well.
yes,
That's the funny way that it works.
yes,
Okay, so this has been great. I think this is a very inspirational story, and anyone watching this, even if you don't end up getting coaching with me, I hope that you take that if someone who was in that low of a starting point in terms of being 38, being a virgin, never having been on a date, being told their SMV is too low, being told that they can't do it, that it's not going to work, to
yes,
that to losing count over the
yes,
next 7 months of the amount of women they've slept with, if that's possible, then it is possible for you too, right? Your excuses
definitely.
are
Yes,
bullshit. And if you want to keep listening to them, I'll keep doing my best with my videos, with my content to disprove those limiting beliefs. If you really pay attention to this, I hope this is enough to convince you, holy shit, like it's time to stop bullshitting, to
definitely.
stop procrastinating. If
Yes.
he can do it, then I can do it too.
Yes, everybody can do it. It's just the matter of belief, how they get that belief, and if they want to get that belief, and if they want to do something about it. People can tell you many things, but unless you take the first step will always be difficult. There'll always be doubts, there'll always be hesitations because maybe of past experiences, maybe because there's so much going around in the internet. But like I said, it is worth a shot. Give it a shot and see if it doesn't change your life. I mean, I would say it changed my life for good, both personal, professional. I just can't even relate to the person that I was 7 months back. So in my case, the transformation has been 360 degrees, like in all aspects of my life. And yeah, this is all I can say. And I would highly recommend working with you to anybody. And the reason specifically being you are very patient with your clients. Like for instance, I was making the same mistake again and again in our first boot camp, but you were not rude to me or you did not yell at me or said, "Oh, this guy can't do it, you can't do it." I mean, you are very patient and you are professional as well. So that is one of the reasons why I worked with you multiple times, and I might also work with you in future depending on where I am, definitely. And I would highly recommend you to anybody who wants to improve their dating life. If you want to improve the quality of your dating life, or if you want to get better even at online dating, I would say that the photographs which you took are just, I still get many hits from them. And I would highly recommend you to anybody. That would be my final, I would say, my final input or my final opinion. It's been life changing, life transforming, let me put it that way. And uh, I just can't be thankful enough. And I can't even relate to myself 6 months back. I can't even relate to the person that I was 6 months back. So, yes, definitely it's been life transforming for me. And I think it will be for anybody who does the boot camp with you, who wants to invest time, even if they don't want to do a boot camp. If they get on a call with you, they can pretty much figure out the authenticity, or they can pretty much figure out that, yes, this is one person whom I can trust, who's at least friendly, who's not rude, who doesn't yell at you. I mean, imagine paying $1,000 only to be yelled at. I recall working with one of the dating coaches where I used to feel afraid just by, just at the thought that he's going to message me. Okay, what is he going to say to me now? It was so bad. Things got
Wow.
so bad after just few interactions. And within 3 days, he said I had to whitewash myself. I had to change my tonality. I had to change everything, change my accent. And when that didn't happen, like I said, he said all sorts of things like low SMV, you don't look like a Bollywood actor, you don't have the jawline. At that point, I said, all right, this is going too far. I fired the dating coach. Of course, money is gone, that's fine, but I fired the dating coach. So the biggest thing I would say is I mean, you should be comfortable working with me and it should be likewise. For
Yeah.
instance, I was receptive enough to whatever suggestions which you were giving. I didn't take it in a wrong way. Like for instance, me going too close to people. That was something I was actually doing. I didn't take
Right.
it as a criticism. It was for me feedback that I could work on. So I would say that at least for me, the way I look at it is you gave me critical inputs, which really helped me in my dating life. And I can't recommend working with you enough to anybody who wants to change it. It is possible. If I can do it at the age of 38, not being white, being whatever color I am, not having blue eyes or 6 feet tall or ripped six pack, eight pack, whatever they call it. It's all about how you think about yourself, your belief system. And it will take time. In my case, I would say it took about 3 to 4 months or 5 months. Then I really started believing in myself.
But that's considering being at a level of very low experience,
Yes,
right?
very
Like
low. I
never
would say
having been on a
zero. I would
date.
say zero. Consider this. I mean, not having gone out on a date till you are 38 years of age. That is very rare. Or, I mean, you can count on fingers people who actually are in that situation.
If
No,
you're still looking to try to make excuses, I don't know what to tell you, right? If that's
yes.
if that's not enough to be like, well, maybe it could work for me. I don't know what to
No,
tell
it
you.
will work. I mean, I would say that it will work because I never even gone on a date, never kissed a woman, never been intimate with a woman. And yeah, now I have abundance of all these things. So I would say that definitely take a first step and change your dating life. Watching YouTube videos is not going to work. You can watch hundreds of hours of YouTube videos, but if you don't take action or you don't have proper guidance, then it will take years. Imagine me not working with you and just, okay, I'm going to watch YouTube but there are certain things which you will know only when somebody is watching you do approaches or somebody is watching you do the interactions. And for that, you have to be actually work with them. You have to be like on a boot camp or you have to have some kind of coaching as to how you're doing it. And that would be my final recommendation. And yes, I'll just say again that I'm glad I made the choice of working with you. And for me, it's been really good, life transforming, and my life is happier right now than when I met you.
I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you for doing this.
Definitely.
If you want to learn more about working with me, about doing a boot camp with me, you can click the link below to learn more about the details and to schedule a free call. And like he said, even if you don't end up taking a boot camp, you're still going to get some actionable advice from taking that call. These are the kind of results that are possible. You can also click another link below. I'll add a bunch of my testimonials so you can see there's a wide variety of people with different scenarios, some of them also being virgins, some of them being people with a little more experience, but you can see the kinds of transformations that have happened from people who've taken boot camps if you want to see more proof that this can work for you. But with that said, it's been great talking to you. And, hopefully I see you again in Vegas and during
Definitely.
when I'm doing a boot camp and you pull every single night and inspire the clients.